It's here! Yo, it's time.
Stand up, just the crossover. That's going to count.
It's here, and it's time to get excited.
Tough Anderson, she win it! She hit it! Martin Anderson!
The WNBA 2023 schedule has been released.
The WNBA offseason is in full swing and the rumor mill is churning faster than a fast break. This time it's heating up with the spicy idea that free agent forward Sutta Sable might be making her way to the Indiana Fever next season. Yeah, you read that right. Sab and Caitlin Clark together on the court with trade buzz heating up. Fans are calling for a Sab-Clark duo that could change the game for the Indiana Fever, and Fever fans are already on the edge of their seats, and honestly we don't blame them. After all, who wouldn't want to see a team led by the sharp-shooting Clark, the post-dominating Aaliyah Boston, and now potentially the Swiss Army knife forward that is sad to say? Believe it's like building the basketball version of the Avengers but with fewer capes and more three-pointers. The Fever, coming off their first playoff appearance since 2016, have already made some noise this winter by reshaping their front office and hiring Stephanie White away from the Connecticut Sun to be their new coach. They enter free agency with $657, $7,639 in cap space, which gives them the ability to sign multiple max players. So basketball fans, hold on to your seats because the Indiana Fever just made some huge moves. That's right, Fever Nation, the team has locked in some key players for the 2025 season, and trust me, this could be the turnaround we've all been waiting for. Who did they sign? Why is this so big, and what does it mean for the team's future? Let's break it all down. The Indiana Fever has begun the process of signing key players like Kesley Mitchell, Sutta Sable, and many more for the 2025 season, and these aren't just any players, they're game changers. Before we go further, I've got a quick favor to ask. If you're enjoying this WNBA content, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Indiana Fever General Manager Amber Cox revealed that resigning veteran guard Kelsey Mitchell is very important to the organization. In addition, Cox touched on the surprise decision to leave Tammy Bennell unprotected in the recent expansion draft and hinted at bigger moves to come.
And obviously, as we get into free agency, the number one priority for us is re-signing Kelsey Mitchell. I think that backcourt was about as lethal as we've seen in the WNBA.
The former number 2 overall pick has spent her entire career with the Fever and put up a career-high 119.2 points per game last season while shooting 42% from three-point range. She is an unrestricted free agent and has made it clear she wants to explore that process, but the Fever are hopeful that White 39's arrival, the ability to
Mitchell from the heavens
play with Caitlin Clark and the chance to finally compete in the playoffs will be enough to convince her to stay. Cox also said that the franchise wants to reunite Caitlin and Kelsey, and considering Kelsey I'm in Indiana, her trials and tribulations throughout her career, it's intriguing for her to be in this moment and experience so much success.
Getting ready to check back in. Here's Mitchell on a three. She got it. Much needed for Indiana.
There's one word that describes Kelsey Mitchell, and that is killer. She's a pure scorer, the number 2 pick of the 2018 draft, and you know that she's one of the best players at the pro level.
Kelsey has just completed the best scoring season of her 7-year career, although she left unprotected. The top in-house task for Fever General Manager Lynn Dunn is resigning guard. The 2024 season saw the feisty Fever guard reach career highs in points scored, 767 points per game, 19.2 field goals made, 282 field goal percentage, 46.8, and three-pointers made, 109. It was a season where everything was supposed to be about Clark, but Mitchell was able to take on a new role in the offense and raised her game. In doing so, Mitchell 39's play provided Indiana with a legitimate 1-2 punch in the backcourt all season, which opened up the court on offense for players like Boston and Hull.
From the break, you guys were flowing on offense, but this Seattle defense has made it more challenging. But you're getting hot. How have you found your personal rhythm?
But teams like Seattle, you got to stay aggressive at all times. That's driving, that's passing, that's everything. Everything you think you do with them, you got to be aggressive. And I try to find my spots for Caitlin.
Mitchell will likely be a hot commodity in free agency, so locking her up to ride with Clark and the backcourt over the next few seasons is key in Indianapolis. After retaining Mitchell, the Fever must prioritize more offense. Hull and Smith are nice pieces, but if Indiana wants to be an actual contender and not just the team Caitlin Clark is on, they'll have to seek out more firepower. So while Mitchell is the Fever main focus, they'll need help in the front court, especially after the Golden State Valkyrie selected Bendel in the expansion draft earlier this month. Cox hinted at bigger moves on that front. Several big-name forwards are hitting free agency this the winter. Ultimately, fit is the most important thing. You got to have somebody that can run up and down the floor and catch those passes that Caitlin going to be throwing, and there's no better fit than Satis, who has been linked to the Satu Sabali is the most obvious name on this list ever since she liked some comments from fans trying to recruit her to Indiana on social media. Sab has been rumored to want to join the Fever. To crown it all, she is an unrestricted free agent.
Sabali back.
But the Dallas Wings could still core her. The most likely scenario is that the Wings core and then trade her so they don't lose one of their best players for nothing. Sable is a high-level scorer who shot over 40% from 3 on around 5 attempts per game last season, a strong rebounder, a good passer and a solid defender. Furthermore, Sable is still young enough to fit in with Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston long-term. Last season the Indiana offense was strong, so if it's about a fit for an offensive play offensively, SA is a true 3-level scorer with both post and guard skills. She has a good handle which she can use for strong drives to the basket or to bring the ball up the court and push the pace that EuroLeague opponents even double-team her on occasion. And the flip side, if Indiana seems a great fit for their weak defense defensively, SA is just as versatile. Her combination of size, speed, athleticism and IQ allows her to pretty much F all 5 positions. Even though the EuroLeague season is still young, it looks like a coming out party for Sab by the time the playoffs rolled around.
Looks to push it, they pick up Plump right away. Shatu with the steal.
Well, and then when shot goes up, you gotta make sure you put a body on.
She was a starter on the best team in the WNBA. In 15 games this season she averaged 17.9 points per game and shot a whopping 45.2% from three-point range. Her brother just got drafted into the NBA by the Charlotte Hornets, and Sab looks ready to make a move to the USA as well. Sab could find similar success in the WNBA, especially with the right team. The Indiana Fever could be just that. They still need forwards next to their big three, and particularly someone who can play defense.
When I was driving to the game today, obviously it's annoying because there were way too many Caitlin fans and I heard but like it just kudos because it's amazing to see so many people in women's basketball jerseys. It's amazing to see the excitement and the joy that comes out of that. So although I feel like our Dallas fans could have done better, I had mixed feelings obviously seeing all the Caitlin jerseys in our home, but it's an amazing sign for women's basketball, and it's just great how far we've come. It's just fun. Yeah, it's good. It's a good thing. Thank you.
Sab has had high praise for Fever superstar Caitlin Clark in the past. She can guard and space the floor, which would allow her to easily fit on the court next to Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. Clark and Boston need space to work with, shooting 45.5% from 3 so far. Sable could provide just that, plus she is only 23 years old and would fit the Fever's timeline perfectly. If Sable continues to play like this, she will have plenty of suitors in the WNBA, but the Fever could give her the option to play with a generational talent and a team that is looking to win. The Fever has been linked to forward Satu Sabali due to some social media activity on her or part, but even if it is not her, the Fever will likely go star hunting this offseason, and if her recent social media activity is any indication, she seems very open to the idea joining Indiana via free agency.
By shoulder, which means you gotta pass the ball one more pass.
Satu Sabali gets her field goal after starting
at 6'2". Salon has great size for a forward and a versatile arsenal. She would be a great fit in Indiana and a serious upgrade over Nalissa Smith because their biggest positional need is a perimeter player who can consistently hit threes, generate her offense, and has enough size to be multiple positions well. Sab does all of this and is still just 26 years old. Last season Sable earned a respectable $195,000, but we all know she's ready for a bigger bag. The Indiana Fever, having just made their long-awaited return to the playoffs, might just be the perfect landing spot, and they've got the space in their wallet to make it happen. Plus, let's face it, who wouldn't want to play with Caitlin Clark? The Fever will have to make some roster moves to make room for Sab's talents and paychecks. Erica Wheeler, the veteran guard who's coming off a $2.2K contract, while she's been a solid piece for Indiana, the team had to let her go to accommodate Sab's arrival. Sorry Erica, but when the prospect of pairing Sab with Clark is on the table, sacrifices must be made. Basketball is a cruel but beautiful game. Of course, there's also the option of trading Nalissa Smith to give Sab the keys to the East front court, or if Indiana wants to get fancy, they can keep Smith as a super sub off the bench. Either way, Fever head coach Christy Sides is going to have an embarrassment of riches in the talent department. Fever fans already losing their mind. Needless to say, the possibility of Sab joining the Fever has fans buzzing. Could This team go from playoff hopeful to legit title contender overnight. It's possible, but seriously, if Indiana manages to snag Sab and pair her with Clark, Mitchell and Boston, it's going to be one heck of a season. The Fever could be cooking something special now. All we need is for Sab to sign on the dotted line. Until then, we'll be refreshing Twitter like it's draft day. You could say the Fever already has a strong foundation with stars like Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, the reigning Rookie of the Year, and Alyssa Smith, who's a dominant force in the paint. Adding these new signings gives the Fever exactly what they've been missing: experience, depth and all-round play. Believe it or not, over 98% of you watch without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it means the world to us. So did you hit that subscribe button? Awesome, thank you. Now let's get back to the video. Several teams are on the lookout for young talent at this time, and college basketball is not the only source of new players. EuroLeague also features some interesting young talents. Most EuroLeague teams have only played 4 regular season games so far, as the league took a break to allow players to compete in the Eurobasket qualifiers with their national teams. Over that time, some young players put on a show. One of them in particular could be a great fit for the Indiana Fever. The Fever should keep an eye on Janelle Salon. Janelle Salon is one of the young players currently making a name for herself with her EuroLeague play. Over 4 EuroLeague games so far, she is averaging 17.8 points on VAR, efficient shooting, 6.8 rebounds, 2.8 assists and 2 steals in her first season with the Italian club Beretta Famila SK. The 23-year-old from France is no stranger in European basketball circles. She already played with the French U6, U7 and U20 national teams before going to the 2012-24 Paris Olympics. At the Olympics, she played behind more veteran teammates, but with Beretta Famila SK, she is one of the team's primary options on both ends of the floor. Now that the Fever has 2 young star players on the roster and has a first taste of playoff basketball this offseason, will be incredibly important for the team. The Fever already upgraded the head coaching position, letting go of Christy Sides and hiring Stephanie White. What is still missing are the right players around Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. Especially the power forward spot has been an issue. Playing 2 non-shooters like Aaliyah Boston and Melissa Smith in the front court together is difficult. On top of that, Smith is also not a great defender. It seems the Fever needs an upgrade, or at least some help other than prioritizing resigning Kelsey Mitchell. The team would consider Salo. The Dallas Wings could lose another forward this offseason. Natasha Howard has already bowed her plans to explore free agency and find a new team, knowing that the Fever should try to recruit her, especially if they cannot get Sabe. Howard averaged 17.6 points, 6.7 rebounds, 2.9 assists and 1.3 steals last season. She is a 2-time All-Star Defensive Player of the Year and 3-time champion. Howard wants to compete and could offer the Fever veteran championship experience and a tough defender. They desperately need any defensive upgrade they can get. The one concern with Howard is that she is not a good 3-point shooter either, averaging only 29.7% from 3 for her career. Nevertheless, Howard is worth keeping an eye on in free agency for the Fever. With the new CBA being negotiated, Howard would probably not look for a long-term deal right now, which would also allow the Fever to remain flexible in the future. Clip 9. The Las Vegas Aces have already done what the Fever are aiming to do: win championship and build one of the strongest teams in league history. After winning 2 championships, the Bases took a step backward last season, and it may be time for them to part ways with Alicia Clark. Clark is already 37, but it seems like she still has some energy left in her before retiring. If the Fever is looking for a forward who knows what it takes to win, plays tough defense and can space the floor, Clark could be a short-term answer. After all, Clark is a 38.3% shooter from 3 for her career and knows how to play her role next to big-time stars. She won't be someone the Fever can incorporate into their core for the long-term future, but she could be a nice option to bridge the gap if the Fever cannot find the younger forward who is ready to contribute right away. This Clip 1. The WNBA offseason is in full swing and the rumor mill is churning faster than a fast break. This time it's heating up with the spicy idea that free agent forward Sutta Sable might be making her way to the Indiana Fever next season. Yeah, you read that right. Sab and Caitlin Clark together on the court. With trade buzz heating up, fans are calling for a Sab-Clark duo that could change the game for the Indiana Fever, and Fever fans are already on the edge of their seats, and honestly, we don't blame them. After all, who wouldn't want to see a team led by the sharp-shooting Clark, the post-dominating Aaliyah Boston, and now potentially the Swiss Army knife forward that is sad to say? Believe it's like building the basketball version of the Avengers, but with fewer capes and more three-pointers. The Fever, coming off their first playoff appearance since 2016, have already made some noise this winter by reshaping their front office and hiring Stephanie White away from the Connecticut Sun to be their new Coach, they enter free agency with $657, $7,639 in cap space, which gives them the ability to sign multiple max players. So basketball fans, hold on to your seats because the Indiana Fever just made some huge moves. That's right, Fever Nation, the team has locked in some key players for the 2025 season, and trust me, this could be the turnaround we've all been waiting for. Who did they sign? Why is this so big? And what does it mean for the team's future? Let's break it all down. The Indiana Fever has begun the process of signing key players like Kesley Mitchell, Sutta Sable, and many more for the 2025 season, and these aren't just any players, they're game changers. Before we go further, I've got a quick favor to ask. If you're enjoying this WNBA content, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.